Jordan Bell third. Jordan Bell third. Yo. I've been getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these birds. Sipping on Ciroc, trip 'em up with the words. I done popped the Molly and I think it's be my third. Jordan Belfort. Jordan Belfort. I've been getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these birds. Benjamin ain't dirty, but these Franklins, they filthy. Always go to court, but I'm never pleading guilty. Ballin' so hard, I only be slam dunking. Be steady rockin', the trunk straight thumping. I be riding foreign, pouring Merlot while I swerve. Pedal to the metal, and I'm whipping around the curve. And I'm rolling out this marijuana, you can smell the herb. And I'm getting all this lettuce, I ain't talking ice cream. I've been getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these birds. Sipping on Ciroc, trip 'em up with the words. I done popped the Molly and I think it's be my third. Jordan Belfort. Jordan Belfort. I've been getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these.
Russell Frank's the name, and while I make billions, I tell my people not to judge me by my winners, but to judge me by my losers, because I have so few. On Wall Street, I wasn't very successful. Started my own brokerage, Stratton Oakmont. We went from just me and my friends to making $70 million in a week. The Wolf of Wall Street by Jordan Belfort. This book was written in 2007. Jordan Belfort is the author. He's also wrote several other books. Besides The Wolf of Wall Street, he wrote Way of the Wolf, Straight Line Selling, Master the Art of Persuasion, Influence, and Success. This book is more of like a how-to be as successful as Jordan was, but in the book he explains, similar to how he explains in The Wolf of Wall Street, that you shouldn't do the ways he did for the bad ways he used them. You should probably use them for good. And Catching the Wolf of Wall Street kind of just explains how Jordan was arrested and how he was caught for his things to the FBI. I would rate this book 5 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. It's probably my best book I've ever written or read in my life. Suggested age group. I really feel that this book is geared for adult males. I would say this because you probably wouldn't want to read this if you were a little kid, because it has a lot of references to drugs and hookers and a lot of that stuff and a lot of the bad stuff that Jordan did. So if you were younger or underage, you probably shouldn't read this book. And I say males because, like I said, he makes a lot of references to hookers and he cheats on his wife, so it really degrades women. So it's probably geared more towards older men. The characters in this book are Jordan Belfort. He's the main character. He's also the narrator. It's in first person most of the time. Jordan's main assistant is Danny, and Jordan's friends that he trains to be in Stratton Oakmont. Jordan's first wife, Denise, she's in there just for a short minute before he gets rid of her and moves to Nadine. And the FBI, and then the characters are kind of hard to relate to because Jordan and his peers live in a lifestyle that's way different than mine. It's kind of hard to visualize how they live just because they can just blow millions in a day. It doesn't even matter. They're all very authentic, and I don't think much can be done to make make the characters any better because it is based on a true story. So the character's lifestyle is kind of what the story is looking after, and if you change that, it kind of make the story not what the story is. So the summary. Jordan started as a phone transfer operator in a New York brokerage where he later moved up to be a real-time broker. And so once he moved up to be the first first-time broker, the stock markets hit a crazy low, and it was called Black Monday. And so he lost his job just because the stock market kind of just crashed. And so then he found a job at a little stock brokerage that sold penny stocks in Long Island. And just to explain, at the New York brokerage, Jordan was selling blue chip stocks where he made 1% off of every sale he sold. So if you sold a share of Disney, he made 1% of the thousands of dollars that stock was worth. But at the penny stocks, these are like low time companies that you don't really hear of. Like, they're not the big time companies like Disney and Kodak and all that stuff. They're like the little tiny companies that are just kind of just starting up. So off of all these penny stocks, he makes 50% on every single one he sells. And Jordan later abuses that and kind of oversells the penny stocks. So that he's like selling at like $10,000 worth of shares. So he's making $5,000 in like a minute. So he opened, like, after realizing how crazy fast the money he can make off this, he opens up his own firm with Danny, and he later brings in some of his friends and trains them to be the good stockbroker that Jordan is. And so then he expands his business and it grows really big, and they get a lot of new employees beyond the original core friend group, and they expand their building and actually change buildings, because they started off in a little garage and they expanded, of course, because they were just becoming huge. Even though Jordan was married, he used hookers a lot and eventually met his wife Nadine through a party. And he later got a divorce with his first wife and then married Nadine. Stratton was considered a joke by the big Wall Street brokers because, of course, they were selling penny stocks, and the big stock brokerages were like selling Disney and all the high-end blue chips. So this was kind of just like seen as a joke. But Jordan could really care less because he was making millions by really doing nothing. Stratton wanted to bring businesses onto the market themselves, because when you bring businesses onto the market themselves, when you sell the shares, you make more because you control the price, and then when other people sell your shares, you also make money off of those. And so Danny, Jordan's assistant, had a connection with a popular women's shoe brand that sold shoes that was popular at the time, and so they took that company on like public by themselves. Jordan was being investigated by the FBI kind of throughout like his whole beginning of this thing, and he was given the chance to stop his illegal activities before he got caught, but he was kind of too prideful and too bullheaded that he just said that he probably would never stop. Jordan later has a child named Chandler, and Jordan was arrested and Stratton was closed because Jordan was caught with fraud and money laundering. He made deals and bought large shares of stock from companies that didn't make much of a profit and talk. So like he would make deals with different businesses that weren't public, as like a sense like you didn't really hear about them or anything. So when he secretly bought most of their stock, so then when he brought them onto the public himself through Stratton Oakmont, he was making more money because he already owned half the business, plus he was selling the other half. And it was kind of a confusing thing, but it's illegal. And so, and throughout most of the thing, Jordan did, like, the people that invest usually lose their money. Like, that's the main part, and that's why Jordan makes money like crazy, just because these people are losing crazy amount of money and all that's going to Jordan. He was fined with $110 million, and this all happened in just a decade. He was estimated over $200 million worth just in 10 years. And he owned 50% of Stratton Oakmont, and so that would be worth $400 million. The plot is very original and super interesting to watch how Jordan lived. There's not really like a real storyline where it follows. It kind of just is his life. There's nothing real big event that shapes the whole thing. It's kind of just his whole life in general. The book is arranged in a random order in time and not chronological, and it kind of just skips back and forth through different times. Like he skips like to his first wife, and then to Nadine, and then he skips to just kind of around everywhere. So the plot is kind of only predictable because of that, because you can kind of see the parts and you kind of can imagine what happens in the future, because you know he goes to jail, and you know he was a millionaire. You kind of all know it leads up to something like that. Parts of the book are far-fetched just because it's just crazy. Like, he just had crazy amount of money, and it was just fun how he, or it was crazy how he just spent it all, and kind of seems unbelievable. The theme and major ideas. The theme throughout the whole book is that Jordan lived a crazy life with the skill of taking nothing and selling it to make millions. The book makes sure to explain the most drastic moments to show out like how out of control Jordan was. The moral will be that you can still make millions and not turn out like Jordan. The book shows how Jordan's horrible lifestyle ruined his life, and that you shouldn't live the way he did. Like, he lost his wife that actually loved him, and he got this wife that kind of abused him. Nadine was really mean to him, and because he's kind of a shorter set man, if you kind of understand what I mean. So I don't know. It wasn't a good life, and it would have been better if he just would have, stayed to his original. This fits with our quarter theme because this is an autobiography by Jordan, because it was written by him about his personal life, so it is a nonfiction book. Critiques. Since I originally watched this movie, I've always wanted to read the book, and after reading the book, I noticed that it was a little harder to follow, but it's still a really good book. And so, like, just the skipping around part is the part that makes it complicated, but that's very picky, because this is like probably my favorite book, so it's a really good book. I can't really critique the characters because they're all in real life, so it's kind of hard to say if they're original or authentic, because they're all based on true characters. I love how Jordan explains that his lifestyle is wrong and that people shouldn't live the way he did. Like, he doesn't really, he really seems ashamed of how he lived his life just because he went to jail, and like it all kind of blew up in his face at the end. Readers that are ready for the intense storyline should probably read the book, but if you aren't ready to kind of read all that and read through it all, probably shouldn't read the book, because it is kind of gruesome and intense at points. So, and that's The Wolf of Wall Street.